Hi, everybody. My name is Jane Peddicord, and I'm the author of a book about space called Night Wonders. I want to start by thanking the Stamola Literary Studio for making this possible so that we could get together and talk about two of my favorite things, space and writing. I'm going to start my PowerPoint now so that you can see everything I'm going to be talking about. And here we go. All right, this is my book. I first started thinking about space and the ideas that went into Night Wonders when I was 9 or 10 years old, maybe about the same age as some of you. I used to go out in the backyard with my sister Karen. We would lie on a blanket and stare up at the stars. We liked to look for figures in the stars and point them out with our flashlights. If we stared long enough, we noticed that not all of the stars were alike. Some are bigger and brighter than others. Some twinkle, and some not so much. We even saw flashes of red and blue in the stars. And we started to wonder about that, about why they looked different. We wondered until we took a family vacation to a very special place. That place was the Adler Planetarium. We walked up those steps and into that building with the cool dome on top. Once inside, we sat down in nice soft chairs that leaned back so we could look up at the inside of that dome. And they showed us the sky on a very dark night. There were more stars than I'd ever seen before. It was absolutely quiet until a voice came over a loudspeaker and told us what we were seeing. They told us that not all of the points of light were stars. Some were planets. If you know where to look from your backyard, you can see Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. Some of those points of light were twin stars held together by gravity. Some were nebulae, giant clouds of dust where stars are born, or whole galaxies like the Milky Way filled with billions of stars. When I got back home and looked up at the sky with my sister, I liked to imagine that I was up there in outer space, seeing all the fantastic places we learned about at the planetarium. Many years later, I decided to write a book about just that, a journey through the universe and back. Before writing, though, I did some research about space, and one of the first things I learned was that the universe is big. Since I wanted to go across the whole universe, I decided I needed to travel on something fast. And what I first thought of was a rocket ship. I did some more research and found out that one of the fastest rockets ever to leave Earth was New Horizons. New Horizons left Earth in 2006 on a mission to Pluto. But listen to this, New Horizons didn't arrive at Pluto until 2015. How many years is that? Are you counting in your head? 2006 to 2015, 9 years. It was traveling for as long or longer than some of you have been alive. It was worth it though, because New Horizons took some really cool pictures. And we humans, lucky enough to be alive now, are the very first Earthlings in all of human history to see what Pluto actually looks like. Check out the NASA website for more New Horizons pictures like this one. Back to my story. I wanted to go a lot farther than Pluto, so I had to think of another way to travel. I needed to travel on the fastest thing in the universe. I'm pointing at a clue right now. If you look at my picture, look up here. There's my clue. Did you get it? I think so. It's light. Beam of light travels at 186,000 miles per second. It can zip around the planet Earth Not a picture like this one, but the real planet Earth 7 times in just 1 second. You can go pretty far, pretty fast on a light beam. But the universe is very big. Riding on a light beam at 186,000 miles a second, guess how long it would take to go from Earth to the sun? What do you think? 10 seconds? A minute? 8 minutes. Oh, far longer than I thought, but so far so good. How about Pluto? Remember how long it took New Horizons? It took 9 years. Riding on a light beam, you can get to Pluto in 4 hours. A lot faster than 9 years. But I wanted to go out into our galaxy. And if I wanted to go just to the next closest star, there are over 100 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy. If I wanted to go from one of these points of light, which would be our sun, to the next one, Alpha Centauri, how long do you think it would take riding a light beam? A day? A week? A month? 4 years. That's pretty long, and we're not done yet. Our sun and our neighbor Alpha Centauri are about 1/3 of the way out from the center of the galaxy to the edge. To get all the way to the edge of our galaxy, how long do you think it would take riding on a beam of light? Want to guess? Did you guess 20,000 years? That's incredible. And we don't want to just go to the next closest star and to the edge of our galaxy. We want to go to the edge of the universe. Our galaxy is just one of 100 billion galaxies in the universe. To get to the farthest galaxy we know of, think how long it might take for a beam of light to travel there. Are you thinking? Here it is. 13 billion years. That's 13 with 9 zeros. I know, that is a long time. And we have to come back. But fortunately, we can see what distant galaxies look like without actually going all that way, because light has been coming our way since the stars began to shine at least 13 billion years ago. That light is gathered by telescopes in space like this one, the Hubble Space Telescope, and on Earth like this one, the Gemini Observatory. But remember, it takes light time to travel. This solar flare happened before someone on Earth snapped this picture. Do you remember how long it takes for light to travel between the sun and the Earth? I think you do, 8 minutes. This solar flare happened when the light left the sun, 8 minutes before the picture was snapped on Earth. And these galaxies at the edge of the universe don't look like this now, do they? No, they looked like this when light left them 13 billion years ago. When we travel by telescope, we not only see very far away, but we see very long ago, back to the very beginnings of time. Okay, are you ready to catch a ride on a light beam through the universe and back? I'm going to pretend that I see lots of nodding heads, so sit back and make yourself comfortable. But be sure to keep your eyes on the screen. You won't want to miss the view. Here's the title page, and here we go. Beside a dark and quiet sea, beneath a starlit canopy, I shone my light upon a star and wondered, what is out that far? Ascending high across the sky as if inviting me to fly, the light escaped the earth's embrace and soared away through open space. I wished that night with all my might that I might stow aboard that flight and sail upon the wings of light across the sparkling winds of night. I stared at that enchanting view until my daring dream came true and I was gliding by the face that welcomes us to outer space. Advancing past a brilliant glare, I saw by luck a solar flare, exploding flames across the sky 100 million meters high. I passed the planets one by one, revolving round the glowing sun. Let's pause here and call them out by name, shall we? First one, Mercury, Venus, and of course, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, are you saying them with me? And everyone's favorite, Saturn. And then there's Uranus and lonely Neptune, way out at the edge. Now I'm going to go back to the book. Then I sped through empty space so far, our sun looked like a distant star, like one of many grains of sand sprinkled on a velvet band, each turning nighttime into day and lighting up the Milky Way. I flew upon my steady beam to lands more distant than a dream, where stars are born and live and die in diamond veils called nebulae. And then we happened, just by chance, to pass an interstellar dance, a red star swinging round a blue with streams of gas between the two. We soared beyond our galaxy, and I looked back in time to see a disk that spiraled out with ease, like lace unraveled in a breeze. And when we'd left it far behind, it was astonishing to find another, then 100 more, each different from the one before. My light steed never ever swerved, but outer space itself is curved. So like a bubble in a bath, I found myself drawn round a path, back across the galaxies as colorful as coral seas, to one that spiraled out with ease like lace unraveled in a breeze. Not far beyond a glowing sun, and very near where I'd begun, I recognized a silver face that overlooks a special place, one graced by water, wind, and air. To me, it never looked so fair, a bright oasis in the night, inviting me to end my flight. Sailing back to Earth once more and landing on my sandy shore, I searched the sky for sparks of light and knew I'd wander back one night. I hope you enjoyed this reading. Shake yourselves back to Earth because there's more. That was only half the book. I wrote the first half, the part that I just read to you in rhyming verse. I was trying to use the sound of the words, the rhyme and the rhythm, to get across the wonder and mystery of space. But I also wanted to explain what we were seeing. So on each page, I added a paragraph of prose. That would be down at the bottom of the page. I'm not going to read it all, but I'll give you the gist and throw in some writing tips along the way. Here's the prose on the first page. I say how once light escapes Earth's atmosphere, it can soar to the stars. And on this page, I explain how the sun makes energy and that lights and warms the solar system, and how the planets were formed from a spinning disk of gas and dust around the brand new sun. And here I explain that each point of light in the Milky Way is a star, like our sun, that lights and warms its solar neighborhood. On this page, I discuss how clumps of matter inside a nebulae can collapse, fuse the atoms together, and create a star. I'm going to stop here on twin stars for some of those writing tips I promised. You may have noticed Night Wonders is full of strange, even weird places that pose a challenge to writers because they are so unfamiliar. It's hard for readers to visualize these unfamiliar places. But you can make them a lot clearer by comparing them to something that we do know. I'm going to show you 3 techniques writers use to compare something new and different to something familiar. Simile, metaphor, and personification. I'm sure you've heard of these, but I still want to review them because they are so useful. It's good to think about them again. Simile sounds like the word similar, and that's because it points out how something new or strange is similar to something familiar. It does so directly, using the words like or as. Listen for them in these examples. A writer describing this cool image might say, "The moon looks as big as a basketball," or "The moon looks like a ball sitting on the rim of a hoop." Did you hear like and as? Okay. The second technique writers use is metaphor. It also makes a comparison, but not directly. It does not use the words like or as. Instead, it implies the comparison. A writer might describe, this beautiful image, this incredible image of a solar eclipse as a golden ring hanging in the sky. The writer wouldn't be saying directly that the eclipse looks like a golden ring. The writer is making an implicit comparison, a metaphor. And the third technique, personification, which is giving something non-human a quality or characteristic of a human or a person. Looking at this one might write, "The moon caught the witch flying by." Catching is what a human might do, not a moon. This form of personification gives the moon an active role and is more fun and interesting than simply saying something like, "The witch is seen flying in front of the moon." You can find examples of all 3 of these techniques on this page and play a little game. When I'm in school, I ask the students to raise their hands when they hear a simile, metaphor, or personification. But today you can make noise. I suggest you clap your hands once, like this. Okay, here we go. I'm going to read the prose paragraph. You clap your hands when you hear a simile, metaphor, personification. Nebulae often give birth to twins. In fact, nearly half of the stars in our night sky are actually twins, or even triplets held together by the pull of gravity. Twin stars circle each other like dancers holding hands. The closer the stars are, the faster they will spin, and the more likely it is that their gases will stream together in a giant figure 8. Okay, so what did you hear? Let's look at the first sentence. Is it one of our 3 techniques? Does it use like or as? No, so it's not a simile. Does it compare something new to something familiar indirectly? I'd say it compares a star forming inside a nebula to humans giving birth, so it's a metaphor. If you were thinking personification, you're also right. It's both. The second sentence merely continues the metaphor about stars forming inside a nebulae. And the third sentence, twin stars circle each other like dancers holding hands. Okay, it compares twin stars to dancers. Does it use like or as? Yes, it uses like, so it's a simile. And a dancer is definitely human, so it's also personification. Last sentence. The closer the stars are, the faster they will spin, and the more likely it is that their gases will stream together in a giant figure 8. It gives you a way to visualize how gases stream between twin stars, something not many of us have actually seen. It compares it to a giant figure 8. There's no like or as. The comparison is indirect, so a metaphor. A figure eight is not human, so no personification this time. Now I'm going to skip ahead to this page because I think it's the coolest page in the whole book. Listen closely to the first two lines of poetry. My light steed never ever swerved, but outer space itself is curved. Stop. Outer space is curved? What does that even mean? We go through space all the time. There's empty space all around us. I never felt like it was curved. It's hard to imagine. Since that's so far from our day-to-day experience, it's important to try to explain it somehow. And I used a rather complex simile to try to explain it. See what you think. Light moves through empty space in a straight line, much like a marble rolls straight across a tightly stretched sheet. But rocks dropped on the sheet will create valleys, and the marble will follow the hilly surface up and down. Like the rocks, stars and planets bend space around them, curving it inwards toward their centers. And like the marble, a light beam will follow the twists and turns of space. So, how do you think I did? Okay, now we're going to go on to a page that is probably my favorite page in the whole book. I also like it because it reminds us how we're all on this earth and living through these good and bad times together. Here, sit back and I'll read it for you. The first astronauts who traveled to the moon sent home stunning pictures that revealed the fragile beauty of our world. People everywhere were fascinated by this view of Earth without cultural or political boundaries. For the first time, we saw clearly that all of us share this same precious blue marble, alone in space. Amazing, isn't it? And if you clapped at the blue marble metaphor, good for you. And finally, I just want to share this page because it has a list of websites where you can find lots more beautiful pictures and accurate information about space exploration. There's also a glossary explaining some of the words used in Night Wonders. And here you can find all the fine people who took the photos and created the art in Night Wonders. And don't want to leave without another special thanks to Stamola Literary Studio for making this video possible. And thank you for showing up and sharing my interest in space and writing lots of similes, I hope, and metaphors and personification. And of course, don't forget, wash your hands a lot. Okay, bye now. Have a great day. Thanks for showing up.